The night wind moved slowly across the broken plains, carrying dust, cold, and the bitter smell of minerals from the river below. The river was wide and loud, cutting through the land like a wound that never healed. Pale mist rose from its surface, glowing faintly under the alien stars. Many had tried to cross it. None ever did without machines or armies. Kale watched it from the rocks above, his thin frame wrapped in a patched cloak made from old survival sheets and scavenged cloth. He was young, but life had already carved sharp lines into his face. Dirt clung to his boots. His hands were rough, scarred by metal and stone. He had no family, no tribe, no flag. On this planet that made him invisible. On most planets it made him disposable. He adjusted the sack on his back and began climbing down toward the riverbank. The wreckage he had spotted earlier was half buried near the water, its metal skin eaten away by time and corrosion. Old transport, alien make. Worth something, maybe enough to trade for food rations if he survived the night. The river growled as he approached. The current moved fast, dark shapes twisting beneath the surface. Kale knew better than to get too close. The water burned skin. The mist made breathing hard. And sometimes things came out of it. He moved carefully, stepping only where the ground was solid. As he reached the wreckage, he froze. Someone was there. A small figure lay near the broken hull, half hidden in shadow. At first, Kale thought it was dead. Then it moved. He reached for the metal rod strapped to his side. It was not much of a weapon, but it was all he had. Slowly, he stepped closer. The figure was an alien girl. She was not human. Her skin shimmered faintly, carrying a soft blue tone under the starlight. Strange markings ran along her arms, symbols Kale had seen before on warning signs and old broadcasts. Ashkari, a warrior species, dangerous, proud, not known for mercy. She looked young, younger than him maybe. Her breathing was shallow, her face tight with pain. One of her legs lay at an unnatural angle, cracked armor bent inward. Kale swore softly under his breath. Ashkari did not travel alone. If she was here, something had gone very wrong. He could leave. That was the smart choice. Everyone knew what Ashkari warriors did to humans. Even a child, even an orphan, helping her could get him killed. The river roared behind him as if reminding him how small he was. He took a step back. The girl's eyes opened. They were bright, glowing, faintly gold. They locked onto him instantly, sharp despite the pain. Her hand moved, reaching for a weapon that was no longer there. Kale raised both hands slowly. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said. His voice sounded small in the open air. "I don't have anything worth taking." She studied him, chest rising and falling. Then her strength failed and her arm dropped. "You should leave," she said, her voice strained but clear. Her accent was heavy, her words clipped. "My people will come," Kale swallowed. "You're hurt. That is not your concern." He glanced at her leg. The armor was cracked badly, bone pressed against skin. Infection would come fast on this planet. "If you stay here," he said, "the river mist will kill you before they do." Her jaw tightened. "Then go." He stood there, caught between instinct and something he did not want to name. He remembered other times, other faces, people who had walked away from him when he needed help most. He sighed. "Can you move?" he asked. "No." The answer was simple, honest. Kale looked toward the horizon. No lights, no movement for now. "Across the river," she said quietly. "If I can reach the other side, they may not find me." Kale almost laughed. "No one crosses that river." Her eyes narrowed. "Ashkari warriors do not fear water." "You should," Kale muttered. "This one kills." Silence fell between them, broken only by the river's voice. He could still leave. Every smart part of his mind screamed at him to run, but his feet did not move. "How long before your people come?" he asked. "By dawn." Kale looked up at the sky. The stars were already shifting. Time was short. He knelt beside her despite himself. Up close he could see how bad the injury was. She had lost blood. Her breathing shook with pain she was trying not to show. "My name is Kale," he said. I don't owe you anything, and you don't owe me. She watched him closely. Lyris. The name carried weight. Even Kale could hear it. He stood and began rummaging through the wreckage. Broken cables, floatable cargo pods, strips of thermal insulation, a cracked power cell. His mind shifted into survival mode the way it always did. Problems became shapes. Shapes became solutions. Lyris watched him, confusion slowly replacing suspicion. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Thinking," Kale replied. He dragged a cargo pod toward the river. It bobbed when he pushed it into shallow water. Good. He secured it with cable, testing the tension. The current tugged hard. "This won't hold," Lyris said. "The river will tear it apart." "Not if it doesn't get the chance," Kale said. He worked fast, fingers moving with practiced ease. He anchored cables between rocks, angling them against the current. He layered insulation to protect against the mist. Every piece had a purpose. Nothing was wasted. The night deepened. Kale's arms burned. His lungs ached from the mist. He coughed, wiping his mouth. Lyris tried to sit up and failed, biting back a cry. "Stay still," Kale said. "If you pass out, I can't help you." She stared at him. "Why are you doing this?" He did not answer right away. "Because," he finally said, "if I were lying there, no one would come back for me." Something shifted in her expression. Not gratitude, something deeper, recognition. When the platform was ready, Kale tested it himself, stepping onto the floating pod. It dipped but held. The cables hummed under strain. He returned and crouched beside her. "This is going to hurt," she nodded once. "I am Ashkari." "Good," Kale said. "Be one." He fashioned a brace for her leg using scrap metal and cloth, setting it as best he could. She gasped but did not scream. With great effort, he helped her onto the platform, securing her with straps so she would not fall into the water. The river hissed angrily, mist curling around them like living smoke. Kale pushed off. The current hit hard. The cables strained. Water splashed dangerously close to the platform's edge. Kale leaned his weight into the guide line, muscles screaming as he pulled them inch by inch across. Halfway through, something moved beneath the surface. The water bulged. Kale froze. A shadow passed below them, large and fast. The platform rocked violently. Lyris's eyes widened, her hand gripping the edge. "Do not stop," she whispered. "I wasn't planning to," Kale said through clenched teeth. The shadow circled once, then vanished into the depths. The river seemed disappointed. Minutes stretched into hours. Kale lost track of time. All that existed was the pull, the pain, the next movement. Finally, the platform scraped against the far bank. Kale collapsed to his knees, chest heaving. His hands shook uncontrollably. They were across. He dragged Lyris onto solid ground and fell backward, staring at the sky. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "You crossed the Ashkari River," Lyris said softly, "without weapons, without fear." Kale laughed weakly. "I was terrified." She turned her head toward him. "Fear did not stop you." He sat up slowly. "You need to hide. If they find you with me, they will kill you," she said. Slowly, he nodded. "Figures." She struggled to remove a small insignia from her armor and pressed it into his hand. The symbol was old, powerful. "If they come," she said, "show them this. It may buy you seconds." Kale looked at the horizon. The sky was already growing lighter. "How many?" he asked. Lyris closed her eyes. 50. Kale exhaled slowly and stood, exhaustion settling deep into his bones. "Then I guess," he said quietly, "I'll need to think fast again." Behind them, the river roared, angry that it had been beaten. Far away, war horns began to sound. Dawn came slowly, like the planet itself was unsure whether it wanted to witness what was about to happen. The sky shifted from deep violet to pale gray, and the mist over the river glowed softly before thinning. Kale stood on the rocky rise above the far bank, his body aching, his hands still shaking from exhaustion. Every muscle burned, but he forced himself to stay upright. Lyris lay hidden beneath a shelter Kale had thrown together using insulation sheets and broken hull plates. Her breathing was steadier now, but her skin was too pale even for her kind. She was losing strength. Time was against them. The war horns echoed again, louder now. Kale could see them clearly as the light grew stronger. 50 figures moved across the plains in perfect formation. Tall, broad, armored in dark metal that reflected the dawn like sharpened glass. Each step was measured. Each carried a weapon built for war, not survival. Ashkari warriors, Kale swallowed. He had seen patrols before, small ones dangerous enough. This was different. This was an execution force. "They're coming straight here," he said quietly. Lyris opened her eyes. There was no fear in them, only regret. "They will not stop, not for you." Kale looked around. The land offered little cover. Rocks, scrub, and the open river behind them. No escape. Running would only delay the end. "So," he said, more to himself than her, "standing still won't help either." He adjusted the straps on his worn boots and checked the cables still anchored across the river. They were frayed, stretched thin from the crossing. He doubted they would survive another. The first Ashkari reached the ridge opposite the river and stopped. The rest spread out behind him, forming a wide arc. Their leader stepped forward, his armor marked with deep red lines that signaled command. His helmet retracted, revealing a scarred face and eyes like burning embers. "Lyris of the Dawn lineage," the leader called, his voice carrying easily across the distance. "You are found." Kale felt the weight of those words settle over the ground. Lyris tried to push herself up and failed. Kale moved without thinking, stepping in front of her shelter. "She can't walk," Kale shouted back. His voice sounded thin compared to the leader's. "If you're here for her, you don't need 50. A ripple of movement passed through the warriors. Some raised their weapons. Others tilted their heads, curious. The leader's gaze locked onto Kale. "You are human." "Yeah," Kale said. "That's usually how it goes." "You interfered," the leader said. "That is a crime." Kale shrugged. "She was bleeding to death. That was her fate." Kale clenched his fists. "Not today." Silence stretched. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of metal and river mist. "You crossed the Ashkari River," the leader said slowly. "Explain." Kale hesitated. Telling the truth sounded stupid even to himself. "I built a way," he said. "That's all." The leader gestured sharply. Two warriors advanced to the river's edge and inspected the cables and damaged platform. Their body language changed. Confusion mixed with something else. Unease. "No machines," one said. "No engines." "Only scrap," the other added. The leader's eyes narrowed. Kale felt something shift, not in the warriors, in the moment itself. "They said no one could cross it," Kale continued, his voice growing steadier. "So no one tried differently." He took a step forward, standing fully exposed. "I didn't fight the river," he said. "I listened to it." A low murmur spread among the Ashkari. They were warriors raised on strength and honor. The idea of bending instead of breaking was foreign. The leader raised his hand and the noise stopped. "Why save her?" he asked. Kale glanced back at Lyris, then at the warriors. "Because leaving her would have been easier." The leader studied him for a long moment. "You know what happens to those who help Ashkari without permission," he said. Kale nodded. "You kill them." "Yes." "Then get on with it," Kale said quietly. "But don't pretend this was about law. You're afraid." That did it. Weapons snapped into full aim. Energy cores hummed. Kale's heart pounded, but he did not move. "Afraid of what?" the leader demanded. "Of what humans do when we have nothing," Kale said. "No armor, no armies, just problems to solve." He reached into his cloak and pulled out the insignia Lyris had given him. He held it up, letting the dawn light catch the symbol. The warriors froze. The leader's eyes widened almost imperceptibly. "That mark," he said slowly, "belongs to the first bloodline." Lyris found her voice. "I live," she called weakly, "and by the old law he is under my protection." The words carried weight older than empires. The leader lowered his weapon slightly. "You are injured, unfit to command." "Yet alive," Lyris replied, "because of him." Kale felt his legs tremble, but he stayed standing. The leader took one step forward, then another. He stopped just short of the riverbank. "You are an orphan," he said to Kale. "No clan, no claim." "True," Kale said, "and yet you challenge us." "I didn't challenge you," Kale said. "You came to me." The leader let out a slow breath. "Show me," he said. Kale frowned. "Show you what?" "How you crossed," the leader said. "If your method is real." Kale looked at the river, then back at the warriors. His mind raced. The cables would not hold another full crossing, not with Ashkari weight, but refusal would mean death. "Fine," Kale said, "but only one of you. And you listen." After a pause, the leader nodded. One warrior stepped forward, tall even among his kind. He removed his weapon and set it aside. Kale worked quickly, reinforcing the weakest points with what little scrap remained. His fingers moved on instinct. The warrior watched silently. When it was ready, Kale gestured. "Step where I step, don't fight it." The warrior hesitated, then obeyed. The platform dipped dangerously but held. The cables screamed. Kale guided the movement, adjusting angles, redistributing weight. Slowly, impossibly, the Ashkari warrior crossed the river. When he stepped onto the far bank, unharmed, something broke in the watching force. Shock rippled through the 50 warriors. This was not strength. This was understanding. The leader crossed last, his expression unreadable. "You did not conquer the river," he said. "You learned it." Kale nodded. "That's what humans do." The leader turned to his warriors, then back to Kale. "By our law," he said, "a life saved is a debt earned." Lyris closed her eyes in relief. "But know this, human," the leader continued. "Your kind changes things, that makes you dangerous." Kale met his gaze. "So are you." The leader almost smiled. The sun rose fully then, casting long shadows across the plains. The river flowed as it always had, but something had changed. For the first time, the Ashkari feared not a weapon, but an idea. The Ashkari did not leave when the sun rose higher. They remained where they were, standing in loose formation on both sides of the river. Their weapons were lowered but not put away. Kale felt their attention on him like weight pressing against his chest. He had survived the first moments, but survival did not mean safety. Lyris was carried carefully to a more solid shelter made from armor plates and fabric. Two Ashkari warriors moved with care around her, their movements gentle in a way Kale had not expected. They were soldiers, built for battle, yet they treated her as something fragile and precious. Kale sat on a flat stone nearby, trying to slow his breathing. Every part of him hurt. His hands were swollen, his shoulders stiff, his throat raw from the mist. He watched the river flow, still loud, still dangerous, as if nothing important had happened. The Ashkari leader approached him again. Without his helmet, he looked older than Kale first thought. His scars were not marks of pride, but of survival. "You should be dead," the leader said. Kale nodded. "I hear that a lot." The leader studied him. "Most beings would beg for protection or reward after what you did." "I don't need either," Kale replied. "I just don't want to be buried here." A long pause followed. "You saved someone of great importance," the leader said. "That cannot be ignored." "I didn't know who she was," Kale said. "If that matters." "It does," the leader replied. "More than you think." Lyris stirred and opened her eyes. Pain still showed on her face, but her voice was steady. "He did not act for status. That is why the debt is pure." Several warriors shifted uncomfortably at her words. The Ashkari lived by law and tradition. A pure debt was not something easily dismissed. The leader turned toward her. "You are alive. That alone will change many things." "That was his doing," Lyris said. "Not yours." Silence followed. The wind moved across the plain, carrying dust and the faint sound of distant creatures. The leader finally spoke again. "By ancient law, the one who preserves a future bearer of the Dawn lineage may ask for one binding claim." Kale blinked. "I don't know your laws." "You do not need to," the leader said. "You only need to choose." The words felt heavy. Kale had never been offered a choice that mattered. Every decision in his life had been about avoiding hunger, avoiding death, avoiding being noticed. He stood slowly, joints protesting. "I don't want weapons," he said, And I don't want rank. The warriors watched closely. I want safe paths, Kale continued, for humans like me, orphans, drifters, people no one protects. The leader's eyes narrowed. You ask much. I ask little, Kale replied. Compared to what you take. Lyris looked at him, something like wonder in her expression. The leader considered. You would have us open our territory to your kind. Not open, Kale said, just not hunted. The Ashkari leader turned away, conferring quietly with several elders who had arrived during the exchange. Their voices were low but intense. Kale could not hear the words, but he could feel the tension. Minutes passed, then more. Finally, the leader returned. The debt will be honored, he said. Ashkari patrols will grant passage to unarmed human refugees within our borders. No harm will come to them. Kale felt something loosen in his chest. He had not realized how tightly he had been holding himself together. That's all, he said. Lyris exhaled shakily. You have changed more than you know. Maybe, Kale said, or maybe I just crossed a river. The Ashkari began to prepare for departure. Some dismantled their temporary camp. Others tended to Lyris, stabilizing her injury with proper medical tools. Kale watched from a distance, unsure of his place now. Before leaving, the leader approached him one last time. You are dangerous, he said again, not unkindly. Not because you fight, but because you adapt. Kale met his gaze. That's how we survive. The leader nodded once, then turned and walked away. The warriors departed as they had arrived, disciplined and silent. The plain slowly emptied, leaving only Kale, Lyris, and the endless land. Days passed. Lyris healed slowly. Her leg would never be the same, but she would walk again. During those days, Kale shared food, repaired shelters, and kept watch. They spoke little at first. Words were not easy for either of them. On the fifth day, a small convoy appeared at the horizon. Human refugees, thin. Tired, afraid, they approached cautiously, unsure if the stories they had heard were true. Kale stepped forward to meet them. It's safe, he said. You can cross. They looked at the river, fear plain on their faces. No one crosses that, one said. Kale smiled faintly. Not the old way. He showed them the cables, the platform, the angles. He taught them to listen to the river, not fight it. Slowly, one by one, they crossed. Word spread. Months later, the river was no longer a boundary of death. It became a passage. Humans adapted the method, improved it, shared it. The Ashkari watched, wary but bound by honor. Stories began to travel farther than Kale ever would. They spoke of a human orphan with nothing but scrap and stubborn will. Of a warrior species that learned fear not from weapons but from ideas. Of a river that lost its power because someone refused to accept impossible. Kale never sought fame. He remained near the river, helping where he could, building, fixing, teaching. When asked why, he always gave the same answer. Someone helped me once, he said, even if they didn't know it. At night, when the stars came out and the river sang its endless song, Kale would sit on the rocks and watch the crossings. He felt no pride, only quiet satisfaction. Humanity did not conquer the stars with force that day. It crossed them the same way Kale crossed the river, by refusing to stop.